Welcome to Roots and Ruminants, your podcast for creative and innovative use of farm, pasture, and rangeland. We're going back to the basics of raising and grazing livestock, growing your own forage, and practical land use.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of the Roots and Ruminants. Jared Knock and I are sitting down today talking all things that are happening with March. Yeah, which
Yes.
brings a few things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which would include things like figuring out what we're going to plant this year is probably number one.
Getting to be time.
I feel like you have to figure out what you're going to plant for corn and bean acres really early so you can get all these early order discounts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of livestock producers out there that are just going, hey, you guys have any oats and peas around there that I could plant this week? I think I could go. And so I think it's time to start figuring out.
Like in our portfolio, there was a lot of space. There was a lot of people that made space, like in their planting, like just like, hey, I'm gonna keep 10 or 20% of my acres just TBD, see what prices do in corn, soybeans, forage, hay, maybe some alfalfa planting, like a lot more gap acres than normal. I mean, some years when prices are good, they just book everything up, but a lot of gaps, a lot of gaps to be filled yet in the seed market.
Or when things are short. And last year was a really good year for things like oats, for harvested acres of oats and peas and so the supply is good. So folks really weren't worried about ordering seed early. So and then the other thing is the amount of reserves folks have for feed on hand. The hay piles are big. It has not been a harsh winter anywhere in the upper Midwest. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it feels like, I don't think there's been a lot of snow or too much cold anywhere. Yep.
Super mild.
So folks have feed. They don't really want to overplant the amount of crop acres, especially soybean acres. So trying to figure stuff out still.
Well, in this week, there's a pretty big twist in the fertilizer game, right? I mean, I don't know. No one can actually say what fertilizer prices are. There's reports that I haven't called in to try to book any. I've got some split apply stuff that needs to be booked yet, and mostly on the dry manure ground that we did. Not a huge deal, a couple hundred acres, so I'm not too bent out of shape about it. But if you were a good-sized corn farmer and you didn't have much bought, you probably are very, very worried right now about the expense and the availability of fertilizer. Which is, I'm just going to say it. If you're a Midwest co-op and you're out of fertilizer right now or can't price it because you don't have it because of the events of the Middle East, you didn't order a tanker of fertilizer that has to come through the Hormuz Strait, that's going to come up the Mississippi, that's going to get delivered to your facility in the next 30 days. Like that's like a long tail of logistics to get up here. I feel like we have the fertilizer that we're going to have for the most part for the growing season, and we only import like 10 or 15% of nitrogen. We actually, fairly self-sufficient in that, much more so than the other mined minerals or mined nutrients. So I feel like fertilizer prices going up 50 to 75% in 3 days is maybe just a little bit of good old-fashioned war profiteering.
Is it actually happening on the local level too, though?
So I was just at a Riverview meeting for Savage Acres, and one guy was, I don't even remember his name. He was saying he was on a corn growers call this morning and he was saying people all over the Midwest are calling in and they can't even get a price on fertilizer. They can't even get a bid. Like, can't order fertilizer right now. It's like, it doesn't quite make sense unless people are trying to stockpile it and hoard it or see what it could be worth. They might be not pricing it because it's not going to go out today. Like, it's not going to go on the field for a few weeks. And then I'd say, maybe this thing goes up even more. I don't know. Maybe we can make a whole bunch of money off the stored fertilizer that we have. Input fertilizer companies are having a pretty good go. Like, they're making good amounts of money, which is interesting. Probably the most consolidated industry in ag, maybe even more so than meat packing or more so than corn, soybean seed, is the kind of the oligarchy of the fertilizer companies they're at record profits, but yet we're focusing on all these other, 3 or 4 company consolidated
Yeah.
industries that are not making money, right? I mean, stock prices for the seed companies aren't great. Meat packers are losing all kinds of money, and but we're going to focus on the ones, not the one that's super profitable right now, which is fertilizer companies. It's like we're always looking in the wrong direction. I feel like
We
it's by
just missed
design.
it.
I feel like it's by design.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing's a show. I don't need to talk a lot about it, but I was in DC last week talking about some stuff with Grasslands Initiative and South Dakota Grazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So we can
that's
talk about
very
that a little bit.
relevant to this topic.
It is very relevant.
Yeah. So you went down there on behalf of South Dakota
Grasslands Initiative. I was actually there for Prairie Potholes Joint Venture, which is a U.S. Fish and Wildlife privately funded donation through there to send landowners out to talk with DC about topics. And we've been working on, AJ Munger and I actually, former podcast guest. I've been working on this with the Grasslands Initiative, trying to basically do some CRP reform above and beyond the Flexibility Act that Klobuchar and Thune have, which would be a positive step forward, opening up in a bigger way the existing CRP acres to grazing. We're actually advocating for an entirely new CRP program that's completely grazable, just a lot like Grasslands CRP, but has enrollment criteria and pay structure similar to but lower than general CRP, but fully grazable. As I think it's pretty important that we build grazing acres back in a pretty big way in this country. One part of it's just to balance out the over farming that we've done in the Great Plains, and a lot of it was because of bad farm policy, and unfortunately the bad farm policy probably isn't going to go away, so you're going to have to increase incentives in another direction to increase grazing lands. But it's a pretty simple message, right? It's like, hey, we've gotten to the point where we import on a net basis, just for exports. We import 15% of the beef in this U.S., and about half of that's from Canada and Mexico, but the other half's coming in the form of 5 million carcass weight equivalent animals from other countries that we're not producing here anymore. And most of that is lean beef, but I think at this point, the only reason it's mostly lean beef is because there isn't a good source for grain-fed beef elsewhere in the world equivalent to us. Otherwise, we would be importing it. Like, we're eating the heck out of this stuff. And we're 5 million cows short, 10 million cows short from meeting domestic demand in this country today at these high prices. It's crazy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so you couple that with the trying to offset acres.
Yeah.
And boost some sort of rally in corn beans.
Yeah, we're farming
put some acres out.
Yeah. There's no, like, we've had a temporary bailout, call it ECAP or MFP or FBA, whatever it is, 7 out of the last 8 years, right? If you have to put a Band-Aid on something 7 out of 8 years, it's not a wound that's healing. You're not like temporarily injured. You have like a festering long-term wound that you can't quite get rid of. So it's time to like treat it differently. So, but yeah, it's crazy how we basically look at, Charlie Munger said, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. And it's absolutely what happened is that we are heavily dependent on exporting a lot of these Title I crops. We produce too much from here. In order to balance the books, we need to get them out of the country. The world is deglobalizing, right? It's not the world is flat, like we talked about. We have to export so much of that stuff that we have to start focusing on things that we produce right here, or that we consume right here, which is beef and lamb. So we're trying to, lead a coalition, and it's actually getting some traction from a lot of different places to expand grazing lands by 10 to 20 million acres through CRP reform and new acres that only go into this type of CRP, leaving the rest of the acres, under their current cap. If that makes sense. And it's been a bit of an uphill battle, but we're starting to get actual buy-in to it now. Like, we should have draft legislation by next week coming out of both the House and the Senate. It won't show up in the House markup that's just got done on the House Farm Bill, but it will show up on the Senate side.
I think it's, nobody wants to create a system that is built through the government that starts to build back. But so it leads me to think about what the current CRP system is promoting and who is backing it and funding it and promoting is many of the wildlife groups.
Yep.
More power to them, right? Good for them. They've done it. But you see what has come, right? The outcome from that incentive of preserves and entertainment and increased land values for hunting and stuff. like they are completely profiting from CRP being in the program set aside in native grass and wildflowers that benefits their wildlife habitat, that
Yeah.
benefits their sanctuary to promote more wildlife, to bring in
Right.
hunters and pay them.
Yeah.
So like really doing this for livestock, like it's not something that's, I don't know, you're not
Well, they'll get all the
pulling on
same
this
benefits.
system that,
Yeah.
yeah,
They'll get all the same benefits, but it'll just produce way
sure
more
they would.
for local economies than it will for anything else. And that's why most of them are very much in favor of this and won't speak for them individually, but they'll be outwardly supportive of this as well because they're getting that. I mean, that position has changed so much in the last 10 or 20 years to the positive, where, even like the guys at Ducks Limited, remember the podcast we did, they're like, actually, those really dense thatched brome grass heavy CRP fields are bad places for ducks to try to nest because they need to get out of there back to a water source and get through it with little ducklings, and they can't they have a hard time getting through that thick stuff. So if you have a set aside acre on one side of a pond and a grazed pasture on the other side, there's more ducks nesting in the grazed part with the cattle than there is on this one that's completely set aside, because they can actually walk through. The cattle make trails, and they need bugs, right? Pheasants need insects, right? So you get the manure from cow pies and all the different things that come with that extra biology. That's actually their first and primary food source before they move on to eating grass seed and grains and things like that. So that has been a 180 in 20 years, maybe even the last 10 years, to where they're saying, yeah, actually these grazed acres are way more important than we thought they would. And cows are actually smart enough; they don't just step on nests. Like, they walk around them. Like, they're more cautious than that. They're not there
Do you
just
know how
destroying
many?
for the fun of it.
Do you know how many acres are currently enrolled in CRP?
Yes.
How many?
So 25. Well, okay. There's 1.9 million acres retiring or coming out of
Okay.
contract this fall. We're pretty much at the 27 million acre cap by the Farm Bill, and that was lowered
Okay.
in the 18 Farm Bill from, I think, 32 million from the 2014 Farm Bill. So we're down. We're at historically low numbers. Now, of that 27 million acres, about 11 million acres is in grass-side CRP, which doesn't really change any management for the most part of any kind.
Sure. No.
It's just it's a good program. I'd recommend people that have pasture that want to get into it. It pays not that great, but you don't have to do a lot different. If you don't treat your pastures poorly and you don't overgraze, you're not going to be out of compliance. So then we have 16 million acres left in what we would call traditional, what we know as CRP. So that's continuous and general and CREP and things like that. That 16 million acres is 20 million acres lower than it was in 2010, when you had 37 million acres in general and continuous CRP. So when everybody wonders, like, how do we keep putting up solar farms, and how do we keep urban expansion but still end up having more principal crop acres every year? It's come from two different directions, right? We can still plant 255 million acres of the big three: corn, soybeans, and wheat, because the other 30 crops that are listed in 20 probably Title I crops, all the other crops, oats, barley, sunflowers, whatever, only make up 85 million acres, including alfalfa for hay. So 85 million acres is 21 crops in Title I, and plus alfalfa for hay. And then 254 is corn, soybeans, and wheat. The whole country is basically corn, soybeans, and wheat from a farming perspective. Yeah. I mean, it dominates everything. So we kicked those 20 million acres out of the program. Some of it probably stayed in pasture. Somebody's hunting preserve, possibly. But most of it went back into row crop when it comes out. And I love the idea of being able to provide grazing flexibility on that. Problem is the demographic of someone who used CRP traditionally was not a cow owner. Most people who were interested in expanding their livestock operations or had it as an important part of their operation didn't do a lot of CRP outside of maybe some buffer strips or things like that. So you have largely retired and out-of-state landowners that were using CRP, and those guys aren't going to buy cows anytime soon. And we're using it primarily for hunting habitat, and so they like the idea of having a pristine, untouched, 40 acres, 10 acres, 160 acres, or whatever it is. So it would be a bit of a reform of flipping it on its head to say, now we're working on this. But I mean, it's a fair point to go out and ask, we thought, to say, good, you flipped the food pyramid. That's awesome. Long overdue? Great. You flipped the food pyramid upside down. But you didn't change farm policy at all. You're going to keep the same farm policy for the old food pyramid for the new food pyramid? Where you're going to incentivize things that are now at the bottom end of the trajectory instead of the top end? So corn, soybeans, and wheat, basically what we eat out of that is high fructose corn syrup, vegetable oil, and the most refined of the flours and of the carbohydrates. Those are all now in the like eat sparingly category,
Sure.
and they used to be the base of the food pyramid and the replacement of all this stuff. So now you're going back to whole foods, yet we don't produce enough whole foods in this country at the expense of producing the foods that are not suggested to be consumed to the same degree that we have. So, I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask: is why do we have the same farm policy for an opposite food pyramid?
Yeah.
So we'll see if it happens or
Yeah.
not.
Can we
Don't hold your breath.
support? Can we build another 1.6 million cows? Like, let's say those 16 million acres of CRP now required some sort of grazing management practice every year,
So
and they could
I
run
think
a cow per
if
10
you
acres.
so the problem is like some of those are like okay, here's a good stat. The average size of a CRP contract in the state of Iowa, okay, is 14 acres. The
Oh
average.
yeah, sure.
So think
Yeah,
about how many of
good
those
point.
are, half acre to 10
1
acre,
to
even 20
yeah.
acres with no fence and no water, that aren't justifiable as even working your way into. Now, yes, is there some 40s and some 160s in highly productive areas and some bigger tracts out west that could? Yes, most of it probably needs water, and that's going to be a really expensive infrastructure change for people to do without the certainty of knowing how long it's going to be. Because if they change that administratively, two things are going to happen. One, they're probably going to get a lawsuit from some of, not the wildlife groups that we were talking about, but some of the more extreme ones like Sierra Club and stuff might very well put an injunction on there and say we don't want to see grazing out here,
Yeah.
right? And so we're going to
Yeah.
challenge that in court because you can't change the rules of the contract while you're, enforcing the contract.
Sure.
And the other thing is that it could change in 2 years. And so I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of $5,000 bred heifers if I know I can only graze my neighbor's CRP field for the next 2 years and the rules are going to change and I have to sell them out at the trough instead of the high.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be reformed enough to say new contracts in this eligible category will very explicitly have, again, the grazing restrictions of grassland CRP, which allows for full season-long grazing as long as you're not, overgrazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's got some merit, and more
Yeah.
mainstream groups are open to talking about it because they know they probably need a supply side intervention. It'll probably never be fully endorsed by all the groups because it would cut back on probably wheat acres the most, honestly, in that part of the world, as well as some corn and soybeans. But these things have to be worth something at some point. We were talking about, so like in our counties, if you take all the payments that are being made between subsidized crop insurance at the new subsidized rates and the ECO that now has supplemental, subsidies going towards it, and you take the FBA payments, right, the flat rate $35, $45 an acre stuff on wheat and corn, plus all the other ARC and PLC payments that are probably going to be about $50 a year coming up this fall. The U.S. taxpayer is paying, in this county, they're paying every acre of corn, soybean, wheat that goes in about $150 an acre just to go plant corn, soybean, and wheat. And our county rental rate for CRP is lower than that, which means that the taxpayer would actually save money by paying someone, 75% of county rental rate for the next 10 years to not plant corn and soybeans and wheat than they would the way that they're supporting them planting corn, soybeans, and wheat.
Dang it.
It's a little scary. I know we talked about this a little bit last time too, so I don't want to, be too redundant, and that's not like the purpose of the podcast is to try to get everybody to agree with that. It's just a take that we took and seems to have some support. So anyway, otherwise, DC is, it's the same. It's kind of a surreal place, and we got out of there. I was like the whole week. I was like, I hope I get out of here before we bomb Iran. Like, ha ha ha, like kind of knowing it was going to happen because we were moving all the troops over there.
Yeah.
Friday night. So I got back on Thursday, and then Friday night is when we escalated things over there. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're all safe.
Yeah, it makes things a little uneasy.
Not in the U.S. for now, but
you're in a safe zone. Willow Lake seems.
Willow Lake, I think, is not high on the target list for ballistic missiles, but I hope we know what we're doing over there. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hope there's a really good plan. I was not encouraged when Trump came out like the first morning and was like, well, the 2 or 3 guys that we kind of had in mind to take over all died in the first airstrike. It's like, oh shoot, the moderate people that we were hoping to have replaced the Ayatollah also died. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
it's a rough
okay, what do we got to get to next?
Okay. So yesterday I was over in Winter, South
Yeah.
Dakota.
Yeah.
The great Elevate Agronomics, the
Yeah.
cubic families. And so the topic of the day was just allocating forage acres and how to plan for those. But by far and away the most popular topic, and we've hit this before too, is figuring out how to take these acres that are tillable and put them into grazing acres. Everybody's got plenty of feed. So they just want to make something to graze.
Yeah.
So I do think that's like, maybe we're beating a dead horse here, but like, man, we can do some really cool things. And we've talked about how we can pencil these acres differently because the value of the calf is so high. Whether you price it out on a per pound gain per acre or a total return of that value of the calf per acre, it's really high. And I put together those numbers and I compared them, and I showed this chart yesterday too of if you valued that acre at a total tons produced, an average of 3 to 4 tons of feed produced, of maybe it's $300 to $400 an acre value that way versus days grazed per acre. And that value gets really low because to value it over $2.50, $3 per pair per day, I mean, it seems to be kind of high, and those numbers don't look good at all.
Yeah.
But if you value it as pounds produced per acre, and you value that pound at $4.50 for a 500 weight calf,
I know.
In 100 days at 2 pounds, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. It's just a fun time to run those scenarios a little bit differently than what we normally have.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, if it wasn't for the trade-off cost of, leaving the plantation, so to speak, right, of the warm, cozy nest of, subsidized Title I crops, it would be like gangbusters. It'd be gangbusters. Yeah. So, okay. How, you have a good crowd down there?
Great crowd.
Yeah.
Yep. Great crowd. Excited
people?
to do. I think there was probably about 40 in for lunch
Yeah.
yesterday. So
Yeah. Okay.
really good. That's good cow country.
Yeah, it is.
I think, like that, the southern part of the state, the northern part of South Dakota, in the central area is great because we get just a little bit more rainfall there, but it's still, I mean, we can get some dry periods with good hard grass, but we can grow a crop to feed them.
Oh, South Central South Dakota is so much milder than it is here. Like it's wild.
Oh yeah,
It's
it was
so
71
much.
degrees when we left yesterday and
Yeah.
got back and it was 48. It's
Yeah.
3 hours away, 3.5 hours away.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the gap acres are going to go. The way it looks here too is just kind of a punt on some grazing mixes and stuff, and then, like I said, with fertilizer prices going up the way they are, that's probably going to make it even more so. Head in that direction.
The one thing that we had conversations, but like people are really familiar with, especially in area like cow country areas, people are familiar with planting sorghum sudan grass and sudan grass and grazing it. A lot of people chop it there too, but they're familiar with grazing it. And I think that's partially because when we get busy with calving and then we do plant our row crops, now it is towards the end of May and they're like, oh, well, I can plant this now, I'll do it. But if you get in, like, if you're diligent about getting those grazing acres planted and you can plant a cool season with some more persistent, now we can start capturing grazing days earlier on that same acre. So kind of push to that just a little bit more too, versus just doing the old standby sudan grass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least offsetting some of those acres with a cool season so that you can hedge weather. I mean, maybe we do get some moisture here this spring. I mean, we're awfully dry right now in those areas, but if it turns around, those acres are going to be more productive. And then you go to your summer annual when it's hot and dry in the middle of July and August when those are thriving. And then in the fall, you come back to a more of a ryegrass type of a mix.
Yeah. Anything that's looking to be short from based on pre-orders and stuff right now? Anything that you're expecting people that kind of need to get called in soon and something, or is everything pretty good?
I wish there was, because it seems to
Yeah.
be a better sales tactic than saying
Right.
everything's okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of demand for oats, and I do think
Yeah.
some of these shift acres are going to go to oats,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of what the bridge payment has been in the past too. And if people
Yeah.
are hoping for that, or they plant oats for forage and capture that same payment,
Yeah.
so that'll be the
Yeah.
one thing that I think gets tight. And maybe we're seeing that with some varieties that are better than others already. So,
Mm-hmm. What are your top 3 varieties for Eastern South Dakota, Western Minnesota for oats?
well, STSU, like, they actually have a phenomenal oat breeding program, and nobody
Yeah.
else does.
Yeah.
So they've got a new one called Ranger that people are excited about. Um, Otherwise, like there's Rushmore, which has been really popular and worked well. We're moving a lot of Rains east, which comes out of
Mm-hmm.
Illinois. So like if you got heavy ground even in eastern South Dakota, moving into Minnesota, Iowa, those Rains oats are really good. But otherwise, Rushmore, Ranger, and then in central South Dakota, people still ask for Hayden oats
Yeah.
because they're a little bit taller and really
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah. A little tougher.
Yeah. They did come out with, SDSU came out with a Titan and Momentum oat,
Yeah.
and they're both new forage type oats that are going to replace Goliath. Goliath has been
Oh,
around
okay.
a long time,
I was
but
going to ask about that. If they're ever going to replace Goliath.
yeah, I think the PvP is running out on that one, so they
Okay.
have 2 new releases.
Okay.
Momentums are awesome. I'm pretty darn sure my brother planted Momentum last year for seed
Okay.
for green production, and they're beautiful, absolutely
Mm.
phenomenal oat. Tall, leafy, and they stood way better than a Goliath ever does.
Okay.
Yielded really well.
That'd be good.
And the Titans are just a little bit earlier than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's some fun stuff with oats right now.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. What else is new? We gotta work through.
So, what we need to talk about
Yeah.
that ties in to spring is the changing of seasons.
Uh-huh. Yes.
And I mentioned to you a few days ago when I saw you, I said I told you that I had just gotten a beef processed.
Yep. Yep.
And it was an old open heifer.
Yep.
And she graded like high prime, probably high prime.
Yeah.
My son Mason said it probably wasn't high prime. He's a meat judger. He said it was
Okay.
average prime.
Yeah.
But we grilled steaks 2 nights ago because it was finally beautiful.
Yeah.
Best steak I've had. Absolutely phenomenal.
Right from your own place.
Yeah. So I think I mean that, like, when we're doing all of this stuff of agriculture, building a family, there is, I mean, you talk about like tying it all together with grilling your own meat on a spring night and having like the best eating experience ever. I told my kids, I was like, we're consuming about $600 worth of meat right now at this table. We got 7 kids or 7 people in our family, and everybody's eating about a steak and a half. Yeah. And this is like Wagyu quality ribeye steaks we're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. So, do straight steaks? Did you garnish that with any lamb or anything like that, or what?
No,
just
straight up ribeyes.
I have had a hard time starting the grill with steaks because I've gone to reverse searing everything, and that is hard to get away from. Like, do you ever reverse sear your steaks?
Not once.
Okay. I knew this is how most like high-end steakhouses did it, right? Like I knew that like reverse sears, but I never knew what it was. So it doesn't take that hard. It's not that hard of a process, but I just take a grate over a cookie sheet. It's like a, serrated grate, like a grill top. Set that on top of a cookie sheet, put the steaks on there. I like to get them to room temperature pretty much before, I would not do this frozen, right? So it's got to be thawed. I actually like to take them out of the fridge about 3 or 4 hours beforehand and like lay them out so they really get, kind of warmed up in the middle somewhat. Yep. So you put them in, not much heat, like 225, 240, somewhere in there. And then they're only going to be in there for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You want to get them up to 115 degrees in the middle, right? Which is rare, right? So you don't want to eat them then. And then you take them out and you have a cast iron pan with It doesn't take very long, so you just need one pan to like do all of them. You can use butter, you can use clarified butter, you can use ghee, you can use lard, beef tallow, olive oil, whatever you want. I usually use butter. Fair amount of butter in the pan, and
Okay.
then season when it goes into the reverse sear, and then when it comes off of there, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes on each side. Okay, that's it. Just to get like a nice crisp in there,
Nice little,
and then it
yeah.
pushes that. It's already warmed up in the middle, so it pushes that heat in way faster than it normally would. And so then you end up with a steak that's medium rare, but it's not like medium rare, like, okay, there's a pink middle, but then I have like, my steak goes from like well done to, medium well to like medium to medium rare to rare, and then back again, as it goes through because of the sides. It's so
Yeah,
consistent because you're heated up in the middle there to 115 that it's like medium rare from like,
yeah.
it's like a little bit of char, and then it's like medium rare all the way through, like super consistent. They're so good that way. They're so good that way.
Yeah, I got to start doing that. I've gotten some
Yeah.
Snapchats of folks doing that. I was like, I better
And
do
it's not, it doesn't take a long time either. This is
No,
crazy
and
thing. You just got to bake them in the oven, cast iron right there. You don't have to go outside and start to grill. I mean, I love grilling outdoors for other reasons, but I don't have a good gas grill right now. I've got a pellet grill, and I am done. I am done trying to make good
really?
steaks on a pellet grill. Yep, don't like it. I do not
Because
need
the
that added
time it
smoke.
takes to prep it, or
Well, yeah, but I don't need the extra smoke on a steak. I
yeah, no, I
don't
don't.
really.
Yeah.
I don't prefer to add the extra smoke and smoke ring on a good steak. It's completely
No.
unnecessary.
Yeah, it changes the flavor of beef.
Yeah, and it's hard to get those things
Brisket,
hot
you
enough.
want it. Ribs, you
Yeah,
want it. Not a
100%.
steak.
Not a steak. So I've got a gas grill, but I haven't put it together yet. So I'm planning on having both. So then I would probably go more to doing steaks again outside. But I'm not so sure I wouldn't do something similar like in the oven beforehand too. Like I'm not sure I wouldn't want those coming out at 115 going on that gas burner just 500 degrees just
Oh yeah,
just flare them up just
I
for a
think
few
you would.
minutes. Yeah.
Especially with this really high marbled stuff.
Yes.
Because you got to be darn careful with flare ups on it.
Oh
It
yeah.
is the other night it was literally like, you know how the fat on the outside starts
Yeah.
to caramelize when it's getting, there's so much marbling in the center of that eye that it was doing that on the outside of the center of the steak. Just crispy. That was so awesome. It was the coolest
See
thing ever.
now, I think lamb chops I'd prefer to just to burn that fat off. I don't know if I would want that. I want to keep that fat
Yeah.
in a beef steak, but in a lamb chop I'd rather just burn it off.
Yeah.
The other nice thing
Have
about
you
the
ever
reverse
done
sear, what? Like
well,
T-bones reverse sear, like anything bone in, where you have that big, huge inconsistency on,
oh, sure
from
you
the
do. Yeah.
outside side into the bone. Reverse sear takes care of that too. Like just makes it beautiful, consistent.
What's the name of the process when they use the water bath to do what you're saying?
Sous vide,
It's like yeah.
sous vide.
Have you ever done
Yeah.
that?
No,
Thought about getting one of those one time too.
I don't think
But it takes a while, doesn't it? Like you have to sit it
I
in
think
that
it
hot water
does
bath for.
quite a long time. I don't know.
Because I think restaurants also do that.
They do. I am a huge fan of char, right? Of like of
Yeah.
a good crispy finish on the outside of pretty much all meat. I'm become so picky with meat in a good way. Like I have expectations of myself as a raiser and preparer of meat that when it doesn't turn out, I'm so disappointed in myself. Right? I just feel like I accosted the entire principle and the basic premise of like the beautiful thing that this is if I don't do it full justice.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
have a hard time eating
It's a
a
shame.
roast anymore. Like it used to be like a roast is a roast type thing. Now it's like a crock pot roast versus a porcelain, cast skillet, in the oven. It's totally different, Justin.
Really?
It's totally different. It's so much better. Like
Really?
crock pots are like for me are like it's okay for
Like a
making cheese
microwave
dip,
chicken
but it's
nugget?
damn near a microwave.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So what I'll do here, like making a roast. And so get your butter, get your onions, get your garlic and everything. Get that in, add that stuff right before, let the oil get hot, and then put your roast in and sear it. And I'm not talking about seared on both sides. I like spend time with the tongs, like get both sides,
Get
and
in.
then
Yeah,
rotate
yeah.
it around on the outside edges, sear on the outside edges, like just get a good sear all the way around, right? So you haven't changed the temperature on the inside of that roast at all, basically. But I
Yeah.
have a good, and you can even get a little aggressive with the char on this because it's all going to melt down later once it goes in the oven,
Mm-hmm.
and then put a little bit of moisture in. Biggest thing is too much moisture. You don't need much. Usually, like I'll pour like half a beer in there and then drink the other half, even if it's like 10 in the morning, because like you know what I mean. You don't want to waste it. You don't need the whole beer. So like a little bit of beer in there with it, and then put that in the oven. You don't need 8 hours to do it. You need like 3.5 hours in the oven because the heat's so much better at 250, and that thing will come out and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
It'll blow
Yeah.
your mind.
I
If
like the idea of
restaurants
searing
served
it.
a roast like that, be lights out. You wouldn't have to put it on to grind.
We've gotten to making just like the shredded like taco meat
Yeah.
from roasts.
Okay.
Man, that's good stuff. Yeah. Like a Mississippi pot roast type of a roast where it is a lot of butter and
Yeah.
pepperino peppers and onions in there. And then
You know,
you've
we
just
like to
got
make
this
tacos.
whole soupy stuff.
Yeah.
What's that? Lamb?
Pork roast. Pork roast.
Pork roast.
Pork roast tacos. Yeah. Pork roast tacos. They're top notch. Use a lot of citrus, a lot of lime, whole limes cut in half,
Yeah, yeah.
squeezed on the pork, put that in there, roast it with it. Those are good.
Yeah.
Some good tacos. It's
We
really
had
tough.
so this is just this past Sunday. We come back from the state wrestling tournament, and one of the wrestlers on the team, his family has the taco truck, food truck
Oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
town. And so they're like, hey, Pipestone, come, free tacos to celebrate the state wrestlers coming back. So they opened up the taco truck to everybody. They rented out the community center, and there was a
Cool.
lineup for 30, 40 minutes, and people were getting free tacos. And it's just phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I think I would love to know how to make like good green salsa.
Yeah.
How they do it. Man,
Yeah.
it's different than you can't buy a good green salsa at a grocery store like you get at any sort of Mexican restaurant. It's
Right.
always different.
Right.
Kind of makes it.
I don't know what that would entail. So
I had a thought
feeding,
earlier.
About what? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we mentioned a wood pellet grill, a gas grill,
Mm-hmm.
and lining up the cut of meat with each type of preparation, right? So like
Yeah.
if you've got a brisket and ribs, obviously we're gonna put that on the smoker, the wood pellet grill. But if you could have a grilled cheeseburger, what type of grill are you going with?
Oh, I prefer a Blackstone. I prefer a griddle.
Oh, I wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking of that. I was thinking of a
Yeah.
charcoal grill. Like those are good
Oh,
too.
those are good. Those are good.
Yep.
I'd probably go with a gas after that, then charcoal, and then a pellet smoker. I think we all got fooled into thinking that our pellet smokers are going to do everything for us. I think it was a huge mistake. I think we'll look back on this phase where everybody had to have a pellet smoker and threw their other grill away, and just with tremendous remorse, like lost years of our lives trying to make every kind of meat on a pellet smoker. It's just not natural. It's not normal.
Ribs are
Someone
by
has to
far
say
and away
something.
the best on
Oh,
those.
yes.
You
Yeah, and
can't
I
make
love
better ribs
chicken
that
in
way.
there. I love smoking chicken. If you're going to have a whole chicken, just get a whole chicken, cut it in half. That's good on a pellet smoker. That's real good. I wouldn't do that any other way. But it is, there's certain things that's like absolutely must do in a pellet smoker, and then everything else, like a huge chasm in between of things that I think it makes it worse. I don't like hamburgers in the pellet smoker at all. At all.
Yeah. No.
Don't care for it.
That's not the right tool for it. Nope.
No.
Anyway. What about pork belly?
Like
Have you done
uncured
that?
pork belly. So tried making our own bacon one time. Got a little salty. Didn't get all the salt kind of washed off when I packed it in salt, and the brine was a little salty. Probably brined it a little too long.
What about like the
but
cubed up stuff that you put on like a wood pellet grill?
yeah.
Have you ever had that? And
No,
you
I
put in,
haven't.
like a honey glaze and barbecue sauce.
I haven't. We should. I mean, yeah. We should. I mean, we have all kinds of fresh bellies, and we butcher pigs. We could just package a few up, but I have not done that. Okay, I'm making an exception to the rule. One exception to the rule on could be smoker, could be non-smoker grill of any kind. Pork loin. Pork loin can go either way. Pork
Yeah,
loin you can do.
totally
Yeah,
can.
totally can.
Yep.
And both are good and both are acceptable. So I guess I'm making a few exceptions here. The pig really can go both ways. Anything on the pig. Yeah.
Except a pork burger.
I shouldn't even be consumed. Shouldn't even be a thing. Shouldn't even be. If you're gonna
The Iowa burger.
Oh, didn't we have a rule for Rayfest one year? Didn't we like pass a resolution to outlaw pork burgers at Rayfest when it was in Iowa, just to get ahead of
I
it,
think
to
that's
make
true.
sure?
Yeah.
Like the year before, we were going to go to Iowa for Rayfest, and we made a resolution just to get ahead of it, so that a year from then we wouldn't have to
We're gonna make
consume
sure
a
they're
pork burger.
And every single Iowa person is like, no, they're actually really good. They're just like a beef burger. They're probably even better. And everybody's like, no, stop.
No. And then
Knock it off.
what are you supposed to do with it? Put ketchup on it? Is there any acceptable pork product that goes with ketchup? Ketchup is not a pork condiment.
No, barbecue sauce is though.
Barbecue sauce is. That'd be fine.
And barbecue sauce and cheddar cheese on a pork burger is pretty good. But it's not a beef burger.
No, I don't think it's that great. I think is it better than sausage?
No.
If you're going to ground pork and not put sausage seasoning with it, you're doing it wrong, in my mind. Like, at that point, there's no point in you having a bun. Just, if you could go to a concession stand at a baseball game in Iowa and just get a sausage patty, like a good old, like just a quarter pound, like sausage patty, pork sausage patty, that'd be fine. Nothing wrong with that. They should just do that. Why have to put it in a bun and
or a
make
link on a
spicy with
stick?
cheese and ketchup. And cheese. I mean, you don't. I guess my pork tacos are kind of a exception to this rule, but like cheese and pork, like who's doing cheese?
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit. Maybe pepper jack cheese.
Anyway, okay. Now I'm getting more motivated to go put my gas grill together that I've had in a box for a while and haven't put it together.
I'm sure everybody's pulling out steaks to the freezer now.
Oh yeah,
I'm hungry.
If this episode doesn't make you hungry,
whew, good stuff.
Then you got bitten by a tick. Remember that? That's the thing, right? That tick disease, that tick-borne disease that makes you go vegan.
Lyme disease?
No, not that. There's a different one.
No,
It's
yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. Grace, look it up. There's a tick-borne disease that if you get bit by this tick and it has this virus, you can no longer process meat, like in your stomach.
Oh my
like
gosh.
you can't eat it. Like you become allergic to meat by getting bit by this tick. As if you couldn't hate. Oh, go ahead. Alpha galacin. Okay, so where's this tick normally from? Any cases of it in South Dakota? Okay. Everybody's talking about screwworm. We're not talking enough about this tick. Tell you.
Okay, is this new? Like, is it just coming up, or has it been around a while?
In the last few years. There's some videos going around where there's like crazy people talking about like, well, maybe we should genetically modify all the mosquitoes to get people allergic to meat like we did with, it's like dumb stuff. Like maybe we should inoculate people with this to like reduce animal consumption. Really crazy stuff. Anyway, yeah, it's a real thing. Stuff of nightmares, Justin. Stuff of nightmares.
Makes me not want to go outside.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can now, but that first tick shows up. You gotta barrel up. You gotta be home. Spray it outside of your house with like...
I don't believe it. I think this is fake news, Jared.
No, Grace confirmed it. It's totally real.
Yeah, but yeah, just because it's on the news doesn't mean it's totally real.
That's true.
That sounds ridiculous.
That's true. Can't trust those people.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm with you, Justin. Probably not real. Okay, so we have, as we were talking about feeding ourselves and our families, we also have to feed our livestock, and that changes this time of year too.
Yeah, it kind of does shift a little bit now.
Uh-huh.
Cows are either calving, and if they are calving, you probably shifted. But most folks are now just shifting into this like
Yeah.
really low maintenance diet, starting to build some energy, protein back into rations, doing something with different with cows. Stocks are definitely
Yeah.
past their prime, and they're so yeah. What do you guys do? Like, do you start adding alfalfa into the ration? Do you start feeding a little
Just add more
modified
distillers.
DDGs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
distillers. Wet
yep,
distillers, which is, I don't know, like the one place we've got a good concrete bunker and that makes sense. The other place we just dump it on the mud and then scoop it off the mud. And I mean, I don't know. The one thing I'm not excited about it being so nice out is now we're gonna have like 3 months of mud season instead of 3 weeks of mud
yeah.
season, and that
I
could
know
get
it.
long.
You really count on frozen mornings on
Yeah,
fields when you're feeding here, and
not
it's
this
yeah, the
morning.
last probably week has been this way. It's really getting a little slimy. We
Not
haven't
this.
even had any snow, we haven't had any rain, but just the fact that our frost is out, get a little
Yeah,
greasy around feeders in the field.
yeah. So anyway, we're doing just more distillers and more alfalfa
Yeah,
primarily in the feeder wagon, and then tried to keep some of the better hay, but there really wasn't much good hay this year, so they're gonna have to get made up for it with feeder wagon.
what about mineral program? Any Rumensin? What do you?
Don't typically do that. Don't tell my sister-in-law. I probably should be using it. I've been to 17,000 meetings in my lifetime about what a no-brainer ionophores are, but don't. I guess I don't know. Maybe should, but have in the past. But we haven't really had
Yeah,
much of a coccidiosis problem, so we don't purge it for that reason. Um, just feed a little bit more, but would be a good idea. I know it.
yeah. We did last year, and I will again now, and it
Yeah,
is because of Coxie, and it just seemed like we fought it enough where it was
yeah.
like, all right, we just as well start being here
Just
now,
get
and
rid of
so
it.
I gotta shift that over here this week.
I can't say I won't. I just got to
Add her
get,
in.
yeah, change it. It would all be in 50-pound bags, which is fine. That's just another
Hmm.
thing to do. I'm not trying to be lazy. I don't know. Kind of got this thing I just kind of got this thing to where we don't spend much money at all on the cows,
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to kick back in and want to.
yeah, that was such a money saver for me last year, though. Honestly,
Oh, was it?
just we didn't treat any calves, and
Oh,
the spring.
yeah,
It matters what we have for moisture in the spring and
yeah,
how tight we are with groups of where we're going with them and stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know. It made a big enough difference. We're just stick with it.
yeah. It's a good idea.
Healthy calves last year.
That would pay for a lot of Rumensin right there.
And I also think like we talk about like uh, we've talked a lot about value of calves and like getting them off to the right start and making sure colostrum quality is
Hmm.
prime with cows. It makes a big difference on what we're feeding them too.
Yeah.
And I've made that bad mistake in the past where it's like, all right, we really try to stretch crappy feed too long and we're not bumping protein or energy and
Yep.
we miss out. And now they're not, the colostrum quality is either bad or they don't have enough. And that's a bad stretch for calves too.
Yes, it is. Yeah. No, cows look good. They're in as good a condition as they've been in years, mostly because the open
That is
water
true.
pumped them
I would agree with that.
up a little bit
Yep.
with what we've been feeding them. But yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
There is.
Well, it's good.
Yeah. It is interesting. There is some prenatal priming and stuff, and I have to go back and reread it. I know Amanda worked on a lot of that stuff on how even second trimester, third trimester, all the things that you can affect a year and a half down the road with simple tweaks and body condition score and stuff. And some of it is not what you think either, right? Like there's a component to cattle that were nutritionally challenged during pregnancy tend to be more efficient at metabolizing later on. Probably not the fastest gaining
Mm-hmm.
things, but as cows, they will metabolize more efficiently if they were in a stressed-ish environment. But it's
Yeah.
so hard to like ride the line of like a little bit of stress versus a lot of stress. It's kind of like dinging your
Yeah.
soybeans with a herbicide. You'd be like, oh yeah, it can really help, but also like there's a fine line between helping them and then setting them way back.
Yeah. We probably all have that one neighbor, that one guy in the area that things are tough at their place.
Yeah.
And I've always been like, golly, but if you could buy his cows, those cows are living off of nothing and getting by, and they're still raising a calf. Those are probably some pretty tough, good cows.
Probably pretty tough.
So it kind of goes back to that, where they grow up in a system of minimal inputs and low care, and it's just they get by. So if you brought them into a system with a little bit better, they would do even better.
Yeah, that was I remember that was a Kit Farrow conversation I had 15 years ago when I was out there with Transova, and it was like, what are your preg rates? Like, he's like about a bunch of like kind of skinny looking cows, you know what I mean? Because he's trying to treat them rougher than they would anywhere else that he sells bulls to. That was the idea. And he's like, yeah, preg rates, I try to keep my preg rates below 90%. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, if my once my cattle adapt to lower input environment, then they start selecting for higher reproductive rates, and I'll keep bumping up to 90%. And whenever I get to 90%, then I'll try to introduce some stress factor or, harsher conditions to actually drive preg rate down, because otherwise I don't have enough selection pressure on reproduction because everything's getting bred. And I want, X amount of cattle to be in this highly stressed herd to be open every year. So I'm applying enough selection pressure so that once the genetics leave here, every environment could and should be better than where I'm treating them. Yeah. So they can go to the harshest of environments. It's a weird way to look at it. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, anything else on your mind?
I don't think so. No.
We've
ramped up the conversation into what's happening next year with March and coming up.
So. Yeah. Well, hope everybody gets through the Ides of March coming up here without too much. Hopefully there's no big bad surprises for us. Usually it's middle of March always brings some kind of a surprise. So hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah. Well,
okie doke.
See you next time.
All right. See you. Bye.
Well, we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Roots and Ruminants podcast. Let us know what you thought of it. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media things. And, if you ever have any questions, just give us a call. We've got a toll-free number here at 888-498-7333. Be glad to hear from you. Thank you.